Okay, sorry, we had a little snafu this afternoon, so we're just trying to get caught up here. Okay, so roll call. Yes, I'm going to have Paula, you guys, she's our new deputy clerk. She's going to step in and she's going to do the roll call for you. So here we go. So just keep my name, just all my names. Okay. Member Davis,
Here.
Member Evans,
Here.
Member Jakowski, Member Lewis, here. Member Miller,
Here.
Member Olson,
Here.
Member Raven,
Here.
Member Sullivan, Member Valdez, Member Vega.
Here.
Neither Member Villegas or Provenza are present. Member Onero,
Present.
thank you.
So
And Will, just FYI, Nolan is in the attendees. He just needs to be
Oh,
moved
he
over
is,
to
okay.
participants. Sorry, Phil, to catch off.
No, I'm glad you did. I was going to say, I believe you've got a quorum of both the CCP and the executive committee. No question with the executive committee. And with the CCP, when Nolan joins, there won't be any question about the full CCP either. Our bylaws don't state whether a majority of the membership, statutory membership or appointed membership is a quorum. Usually it's just the ones that are appointed. So 7 would be a quorum given the 1 vacancy we have. In short, you're good. You got a quorum of both.
All right. And we are moving Nolan over. Oh, I see him. Thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item number 3, which is the approval of the agenda. I'm sure everyone's had an opportunity to look at the agenda. If not, take some time right now, and can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Chair Miller will make that motion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Chief Miller, and thank you, Ian. Can we go ahead and get a roll call vote, please?
Member Davis,
Aye.
Member Evans,
Aye.
Member Jakowski, Member Lewis, Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Olson,
Aye.
Member Raven,
Aye.
Member Sullivan,
Yes.
Member Valdez,
Yes.
Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Onero.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you very much. All right, that brings us to agenda item number 4, public comment. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the CCP on subjects related to CCP business, but not otherwise on the agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any public comment?
No hands raised.
No hands raised. Okay, thank you. This brings us to the consent agenda, which is items 5, 6, and 7 to authorize remote meetings, also to approve minutes of the October 24th meeting, and then to approve the calendar of the CCP going back to quarterly meetings. Was there anybody who wanted to pull any of those items before we ask for a motion? I'm not seeing any hands. Well, I'm trying to scroll through my screens. So can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda items?
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Ian. Can I get a second?
Miller will second.
Thank you, Chief. And can we get a roll call, please?
Member Davis,
Aye.
Member Evans,
Aye.
Member Jakowski, Member Lewis, Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Olson,
Aye.
Member Raven,
Aye.
Member Sullivan,
Yes.
Member Valdez,
Yes.
Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Oneta.
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you, Madam Clerk. So that brings us back to the regular agenda and item number 8, member announcements. Are there any announcements members would like to make at this time? I would actually like to make just more of a recognition announcement. This is Ian Evans' last meeting with the CCP. He is moving on, but he'll still be with us in the county. But Ian, you've been a really trusted partner for all these years that I've been involved in the CCP, and you've been a really go-to person to help with this. So I just wanted to say thanks for everything you've done for the CCP.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
All right, so that brings us to item number 9, which is the update outcomes and metric ad hoc subcommittee. So I'm going to send it over to our CCP analyst, John Rowe, to expand on this a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So we need to, the CCP formerly had an outcomes and metrics ad hoc subcommittee to set metrics and measurements for strategic plan goals. The ad hoc is still going to be needed. We have the new strategic plan. So in order to establish the metrics for that plan, we're recommending the establishment of a new ad hoc. If you look in the staff report, you'll see what the prior membership was. Obviously, that'll need to be updated. There's a couple names listed there who are no longer with or will no longer be with the CCP. So, and we've gotten recommendation from County Council that we would like to have probably 3 members on any ad hoc subcommittee and make sure that their scope is strictly defined as to what they'll be working on. In this case, the scope is mentioned in the staff report recommendation that they will work on the outcomes and metrics with the stated deadline of June of 2023 as detailed in the strategic plan. And that's the entirety of my presentation on this item. Give it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Can I clarify one thing real quick? My concern about the number of members on an ad hoc was specific to the executive committee. No more than 3 members of the executive committee should be on an ad hoc committee if that ad hoc is going to have jurisdiction over issues that relate to the executive committee's purview, such as the strategic plan, budget, things of that nature. So it can include additional members from the balance of the CCP if that's desired.
My apologies for the mischaracterization there, Phil.
No problem at all.
And so right now, as it stands, it's Chief Runick and Laura Valdez who are currently on it. So the question is, would we like to expand that to have either, 2 more executive members to keep it to 3 or less, or any other members, just for a more global approach and looking at this outcomes and metrics ad hoc subcommittee?
Chair, this might be a question for Phil. I'm not sure, but are we allowed to nominate folks that are part of departments from CCP but are not CCP members to be on these ad hocs? I feel like that happened in the past, but not sure if that was if it should have or not.
So under the Brown Act, you can create an ad hoc, which means it's exempt from the Brown Act. It doesn't have to have posted meeting agendas and accommodate the public at its meetings, only if it's less than a quorum of the body that's participating in the committee, and only if the membership is exclusively members of that body. So we can't designate staff from departments that aren't part of the CCP or executive committee, unless we want to comply with the Brown Act, which isn't the end of the world.
So sorry, just to further clarify, if they're departments of the CCP, can they be other staff members that aren't CCP?
No, it has to be the
Okay.
CCP appointee.
Okay.
We have a few subcommittees to discuss here. So this is the first of three, and this is one that has two existing members on it. We're losing a couple members. But is there any members who currently on, whether the executive or the full CCP, that would like to volunteer to be on the Outcomes and Metrics ad hoc?
I think from Health and Human Services, with Ian vacating that seat, we definitely would like to have a backfill. And I think really from the substance abuse, mental health kind of spectrum of care, it might make sense to be someone that we hire. It could make sense to be Carlene. It could make sense to be myself. So I'm just a little unsure today while we have the active recruitments going while Ian's still here. I mean, I would love to have a Health and Human Services chair or a space reserved. I just don't know who the perfect body is going to be yet. And also with our recruitments, I don't know if we're going to, it could be someone that replaces Ian or it could be Carlene. Can we table Ian's vacancy until after we backfill his replacement and get a couple weeks under our belts to figure that out, at least for his seat?
Yeah, Phil, quick question. Can we possibly just fill with someone from HSA not knowing who the body is, or should we table this for a January discussion?
We can create the subcommittee today and appoint members and just hold a seat open
Okay.
for a member from HHSA to be appointed, at a future meeting, I assume in January or whenever we next meet again.
That'd be fine.
Okay, so the motion would be for someone from HHSA, just not sure who that person would be until a later time. Okay,
And I'm happy to assist on that ad hoc as well.
I'm sorry, Matt, were you volunteering also?
Yes.
All right. So this kind of brings us back to where we were before with the chief, Laura Valdez from the Victim Restoration, a member from HHSA, now a member from the sheriffs. So this looks like we're back to being a whole. Can I get a motion if this is, everyone's in agreement with this?
I will move to include Matt, a placeholder for the Health and Human Services Office, which will fill in January, and to reappoint Laura and Dan to the ad hoc.
All right, and I guess before I ask for a second, was there any more CCP comment?
So I'll just clarify with Nolan, and this includes the scope as outlined in the staff report, correct?
Yeah, as stated by staff. Yeah, yep.
I'll second. Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan. And can we go ahead and get a roll call?
Member
sorry.
Davis,
Aye.
Member Evans,
Aye.
Member Jakowski, Member Lewis, Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Olson,
Aye.
Member Raven,
Aye.
Member Sullivan,
Yes.
Member Valdez,
Yes.
Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Onero,
Yes,
motion passes.
all right. This brings us to item number 10, another subcommittee. This one is to consider an update to the Public Relations Ad Hoc Subcommittee's charter term and membership. So one of the objectives in the 2023-2025 strategic plan is to increase the public's understanding of the criminal justice system and the work of the CCP. To support that effort, there's been an interest in reconvening the Public Relations Ad Hoc Subcommittee to revise guidelines that previously developed related to outreach. There's no members in this subcommittee as it currently stands. It would convene for 6 months and it would start in January. Are there any members who are interested in being part of this Public Relations Ad Hoc Subcommittee?
I am.
I have Tracy volunteering. Thank you, Tracy.
I could volunteer from Health and Human Services.
Nolan
I can volunteer. Jonathan.
and Jonathan. That puts us at our max of 3. as far as the executive, is there anyone else from non-executive that would be interested in joining this ad hoc subcommittee? Not seeing any hands. We have a good, strong group. Is there any other CCP comments? Is there any comments from the public?
No hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. Can I get a motion to approve Nolan, Tracy, and Jonathan as the Public Relations Ad Hoc Subcommittee Charter?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Who made the second, please?
I did. Member Evans.
Oh,
Thank you. Okay, Member Davis,
Aye.
Member Evans,
Aye.
Member Jakowski, Member Lewis, Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Olson,
Aye.
Member Raven,
Aye.
Member Sullivan, Member Sullivan,
Yes.
Member Valdez,
Aye.
Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Onero,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thank you. This brings us to item number 11. This is consideration for appointing a community-based organization member to the CCP. So this was originally decided to put this out back to this group. We're currently without a representative from a CBO or community-based organization with experience in successfully providing rehabilitative services to persons who have been convicted of a criminal offense. There has been an interest in developing a process to appoint the CBO member, as previously discussed in CCP meetings. Are there any members who would be interested in serving on an ad hoc subcommittee that would develop a process for first advertising the vacancy, then recruiting candidates, and ultimately appointing the CBO member?
Can I ask a question, Will? How was it that the DRC was put on to the committee? And my concern here is, I know we were hoping to have this on the agenda at the last meeting and that didn't happen. And now we're going to have a meeting to figure out how to recruit. And then that's not going to happen until January. And then April is the meeting after that. And now we're talking like 6 months down the road without 8 months or so without a CBO representative. Is there a more efficient way we could do this with a little more expeditiously?
I believe at the 2 meetings prior, it was brought up to use the Board of Supervisors already in place method for choosing a CBO, but that was agreed upon by this group to move in a different direction. And I believe that's the direction we're in right now, where we have to essentially start from scratch to recruit, nominate, and move forward with a CBO from the area. If I'm not mistaken.
Just thinking aloud, I mean, one thing you could do is modify the charge to the subcommittee to give it authority to decide on the process for the vacancy and recruiting, and ultimately just return with a final candidate or maybe 2 or 3 candidates for the full CCP to choose from. That way you don't have to have this interim step of a check-in in 2 months on advertising for the vacancy and the other process-based elements of this.
What if we were to agree to have interested CBOs submit letters of interest? We appoint an ad hoc committee, and then in January, that ad hoc committee recommends, makes a recommendation to the full committee, and we vote in January. I mean, how hard is it to do a recruitment? We just say any CBO can submit a letter of interest, and we put that on the website.
I think it's within your purview to proceed that way if that's the will of the CCP. And thus, Will, I don't know if that presents any issues, administrative or otherwise, for your department. I wouldn't think so, but I don't want to speak for you necessarily.
The plan Jonathan's laying out, I can't see how it would be any conflicts with the probation department if a group did volunteer to head up this ad hoc and then have an internal discussion based on a letter submitted and came back to the group. Does anyone else have any thoughts on this?
Just have a quick question. Is there any guidance in like the statute that talks about what type of CBO it needs to be? Like I know DRC was obviously really connected because of the day reporting center with this population. Is there anything stating like, that it has to be a community-based organization that has experience in serving the AB 109 population or anything like that? And if so, I would assume that would be, clearly stated in the posting for recruitment. Other than that, I agree with Jonathan. I think, we can make this a simpler process than, or as simple process as we need to and recruit and get that position filled.
Yeah, to answer your first question, I do have a little note here that's from the CCP statute that says, a representative from a community-based organization with experience in successfully providing rehabilitative services to persons who have been convicted of a criminal offense. That's not the entire statute, but just to answer that first part.
Yeah, it doesn't have any more detail on the nature of this representative other than what Will just read. That's all the statute says on the topic.
Which, to Ian's point, as long as that's spelled out in the recruitment, and then we can reconvene in January. Once we've had some folks apply or submit letters of interest with, I guess it would be a recommendation from this ad hoc group. Jonathan, that was your.
Yes, yes, maybe, we have have John post it, citing the statute with a due date of, 1 month out. And then after that, the committee gets it, or the ad hoc gets it, and then they make a recommendation to us in January.
Any more CCP comment on Jonathan's proposal?
I think that makes sense. And if you need volunteers for the group, I'll volunteer.
Okay, that was going to be the next step once we agreed that that was a good path to go forward. So I have Member Olson volunteering for this group. Anyone else?
I'll volunteer. Jonathan.
Thank you, Member Raven.
Can I volunteer a member of our team that's not here? I'd like to volunteer Carlene. That way we have some representation. I mean, I'm sure she'll be fine. So I will volunteer Carlene if that's allowable.
If that's a question to me, yeah, it's allowable. We
All right.
customarily place committee assignments on people that aren't present.
Perfect. Then I am volunteering Carlene for this role.
All right. So we have 3. Do I have a motion to move forward with this subcommittee?
Will, you want to make sure there's no public comment?
Thank you, Phil. Madam Clerk, any public comment?
No hands raised, Chair.
Thank you, Madam. So can I get a motion for the subcommittee and with Member Olson, Member Raven, and Member, who was the final member?
Jakowski.
Jakowski.
So moved. Raven.
I'll second.
Thank you, Member Raven and Member Valdez. Madam Clerk, can we go ahead and get a roll call vote, please?
Member Davis,
Aye.
Member Evans,
Aye.
Member Jakowski, Member Lewis, Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Raven,
Aye.
Member Sullivan,
Yes.
Member Valdez,
Yes.
Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Oneto,
Yes.
motion passes.
All right, thank you. Okay, those are all the subcommittees. So we have those filled. That's great. I'm going to move on to item number 12, which is to consider innovation funding proposal from the Yolo Conflict Resolution Center in the amount of $75,000 to increase the community's understanding of and participation in restorative justice with the objective of expanding the use of restorative justice opportunities. I'm going to hand it over to CCP analyst John Rowe to introduce this item and also to give Kara Hunter an opportunity to speak.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, as the chair mentioned, this is a presentation from the Yolo Conflict Resolution Center. They've been providing services to Yolo County since the 2014-2015 fiscal year when they were the sole bidder for a county-issued RFP. They're requesting $75,000 in innovation funding to perform additional outreach and education program within Yolo County in order to increase the understanding of and usage and participation in restorative justice programs and restorative justice opportunities. Executive Director Kara Hunter is here with us today, and she is going to give a presentation on this program. Kara, go right ahead.
Okay, thanks very much, John. And thanks everyone for allowing me a few minutes to just provide a little more context or rationale to our funding request. As you heard John say, our organization has been providing services to the county for several years, and specifically restorative justice services for about the last 4 years, in partnership with probation, the public defender, the district attorney's office, and the outcomes that we've seen thus far in those efforts have been encouraging and positive in terms of reduced rates of recidivism, marked changes in behavior, marked changes in relationships, etc. What we've learned in this time in providing restorative justice services to the community is that the idea of restorative justice and the idea of justice being administered outside of the criminal legal system is a paradigm shift. And I don't think we've done a good enough job in keeping the community up to date on what restorative justice is, what the potential is, what the opportunities are in participating in a process such as this until they're in the moment, right? Until you're talking directly with, and I'm going to use these terms knowing that these can be loaded terms, but in direct conversation with offender and victims. And a lot of times when folks are in those moments, decision-making can be challenged by a whole host of factors. And what we've learned as a byproduct of doing this work for so many years now is that if folks had a better understanding as to what restorative justice is, what participation looks like, what the principles and values of a process like this are, in general, before ever having been invited to participate, participation rates would increase. It is the #1 reason folks hesitate or say no to this process is that it's unfamiliar, they're not sure what's expected of them, and they'd rather just go with what they know and take the familiar route of the traditional criminal legal system process or prosecution. I think it is our responsibility to increase public understanding that restorative justice is available, that it's a mechanism that can keep folks out of the criminal legal system in general. I think it aligns quite well with a lot of the outcomes that the CCP has not only in the past, but looking forward into the future. And we also get this request often from our partners. Some folks have, in this room, members of your departments have asked us for better ways to explain restorative justice? Do we have a video? Do we have brochures? What can we give to people so that they can wrap their heads around this shift in paradigm about the administration of justice? So I know my request is big, but I think we have a big responsibility to the community to be providing them the knowledge that, there is a process out there that's available to them. And really, knowledge is privilege. And if we're not doing a good job of spreading this knowledge, I think we're creating some barriers to access that can be fundamentally unfair to certain segments of our population. So that's what we're asking for. We'd like to be able to produce a couple of videos that folks can share with clients, that we can share widely in the community, as well as doing a whole host of presentations to different segments of the community that are curious about what restorative justice is, what its potential is, and how it might be of use, not only when a crime has been committed, but in other segments of our community, like schools, for example. So that's my rationale. I could go on for a lot longer, but I won't, because I think a lot of you here are quite familiar with the restorative justice process. But if there's time, and Will, if it's okay, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to try to answer any questions if there are any.
Yeah, I was just going to put it out to the group for any questions that
Oh.
Kara can answer.
I have a question. I'll just say thank you to Kara and the team for the work they've done in YOLO. I know it, impacts a lot of the clients that we serve and is embedded in a lot of the programs. And looks like we are getting ahead of the game by trying to check off one of our CCP strategic plans that we haven't even officially adopted yet. So kudos for whoever got this on the agenda so far ahead of the game.
Thank you, Ian. I appreciate that. And I think, we should all feel really proud about the participation that we've had in allowing for restorative justice to happen in Yolo County. We are looked at as a leader in this effort. I'm contacted all the time by people from within California, outside of California, and even outside of the country on the efforts that we've made in this arena. So I think we can just continue to be diligent about the way that we're offering this knowledge out into, our communities and beyond. So thank you for that comment.
Yeah, I had a little bit different comment than what Ian had. I really like restorative justice. Kara, I love your group. You do a lot of really good work. But I have a hard time swallowing $75,000 for a media campaign. In light of other things I know that are coming down the pipe. For instance, we have a Restore grant where we're taking juveniles out of the delinquency system and sending them directly to you that's going to end. I would much, much rather spend $75,000 on direct service rather than a media campaign. So I think that, I just think that there's so many competing things that I'm having a hard time with this one.
And I get that, Tracy. I agree with you that direct services is always an easier sell, if you will, when you're trying to find funding for something. However, what I do know is that our ability to provide these services in the Restore program and beyond would increase if folks had an understanding. Like I said, the hesitancy and the resistance that we get from people that have been referred to us is, we don't know what this is. This sounds weird. I'm not sure what you're talking about. I'm just going to say no. And my joke has been for years that I wish there was a Law and Order Restorative Justice Unit so I could say, have you seen that show? Yeah, that's what we do. And we're going to ask you to do that. But nothing like that exists. And I think this work will continue to be hard, and we will continue to not be able to provide service to people simply because of this lack of knowledge about what restorative justice is. It happens now. It happens, on a regular basis, that people don't want to participate in this service simply because they don't understand what it is.
No, I understand that. I mean, I think all of us to some extent have problems with our brand or what it is that our services are going to be. I just, like I said, I just don't, I'm not convinced this is a CCP $75,000 bill. I think it's something that YCRC should be doing. I just don't know if it's a $75,000 bill to CCP.
Fair enough.
What exactly how are you going to get the message out? Is there any more detail on exactly what you're going to do and costs? Because it's kind of this general $75,000.
Just write me a check and I'll let you know later how I spent it. No, of course.
Not that I don't
Um,
trust you, Kara, because we worked together and have been for a while, but it's kind of unusual to get a request that is just,
Yeah.
give a blank check.
Yep.
And the other question I have is, because the other plan was educating individuals more directly, I think. And why did that not happen? As opposed to, educating the public in general?
So we do both already, Jonathan. I think it's just that this is an effort that needs to be continuous and it needs to be expanded. So let me answer your first question first, and then I'll try to address the second one more thoroughly. So yes, of course, I've contacted companies that can help us do videos, for example. And the idea initially was client testimonials, people that have come through our programs that can speak directly about how participating in a restorative justice service has impacted their lives, right? The trajectory changes, the transformation, all of these things that I get to hear on a regular basis, that the community, if they could understand the potential and the impact of this kind of process, I think would help them believe more in criminal justice reform, if you will, that we are actually doing things right now that is changing the way justice gets administered in Yolo County. I think that would maybe rebuild some of the, rapport that folks have with our criminal legal system by understanding that right now things are being done and people's lives are being impacted and changed by hearing that voice firsthand from people that have experienced it. And then to your second point, I think it's important that we do both, that we do, the broader campaign to help people understand, and then the individual conversations around what restorative justice and what it is and what it isn't. And I do those on a weekly basis, if not a daily basis. But I would like to be able to, have a little bit more of a, a toolbox to reach into. For example, I think it was a probation officer that said, do you have something that I can show my clients so that when I'm trying to explain to them what restorative justice is, I have something to show them? And the idea was that what better way than to hear from people that have been in your shoes and are trying to make a decision around, do I choose this option or do I choose this option? And so that's happening both on an individual level, but also on a broader scale, if you will, by having tools that we can access to do that with.
Do you have a plan, like in terms of what type of media outlets or what you would want to do and what the costs might be? Do you have anything like that?
Oh yes, this has been an ongoing effort for us for some time. So I have contacted a film production company that's here local. They're actually in Sacramento County, not Yolo County, that has put together sort of a scope of what they could do for different amounts of money, right? Here's what we could do for $20,000. Here's what we could do for $100,000 and everything in between. And help me decide, depending on how much funding we have to put into this, how much effort can we make to produce these kinds of videos. And then I've been working with Jenny Tan, who some of you may know, in just helping me get better at messaging to the community. It's been her job for many years to do that. And she's been sort of consulting with me to just give me some ideas and thoughts and things to consider about not only distribution of information, but messaging as well, because it is not my area of expertise. I'm a social worker. So, calling in people that, have this expertise has been really important to me.
So for me, and I think for this committee, it should be something we would want to see before we approve that, a breakdown, a budget, what your plans are, and you could, if you want to break it down into different, if I had 20,000, if I had 50, if I had 75, I just feel like that, because I don't know that we've ever had something we've approved that hasn't had some sort of budget or some detail on it.
Sure.
So I think that's something that for me in voting that.
Oh, you muted yourself. What did you say at the end there?
I've got all this background noise here. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
For me, in voting, that would be important to have.
Yeah, no, I'd be glad to do that if that's helpful, for sure.
I love Jonathan's suggestion, and it goes along with Tracy's, kind of pausing on it, maybe getting like a tiered approach. If you're able to break it down, like for
Sure.
15,000, this is what we could get. For 30,000, this is what we get. For full 75,000 asked, this is what it would get. It would also give us time to go in and see if we, officially approve our CCP plan that has stuff around media and getting messaging out and all that. And, the ad hoc maybe partnering on this to bring a recommendation to the CCP, the full CCP board on, what option out of those the media subcommittee or sub ad hoc, whatever media ad hoc would, recommend to the group.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'd be glad to do that for sure.
Okay.
Any other questions? Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Kara.
I was just saying, any other questions? Anything else that I can do or try to answer?
Any more CCP comment? Madam Clerk, is there any public comment?
No hands raised, Chair.
Thank you. Doesn't look like there's any motion to move forward, but there is a suggestion that Kara kind of go back and revise this plan with just a little more detail that lays
Sure.
out maybe a tiered approach of different levels that could be available for the CCP to invest in for this campaign.
Great. I will do it. Thank you very much. And thank you all for just allowing me the time to, work out some of these details a little bit more specifically. And I'll make sure I get that information supplied, I'm assuming to John in the coming days, so folks have it to consider.
That sounds good. Thanks so much,
Okay.
Kara.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Thanks very much, y'all.
All right, that brings us to agenda item number 13, which is the approve the referral of the 2023 to 2025 CCP strategic plan to the Board of Supervisors. I'm going to hand it over to analyst John Rowe to speak a little bit more on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So no one here is a stranger to the 2023-2025 CCP strategic plan. You've all been working very hard this year on getting this out. This process began in early 2022, and after a lot of public input, 2 community engagement meetings over the summer, and several special meetings specifically for drafting and going over the language, the CCP has developed a final piece of language, which has been attached to the agenda packet today. CCP considered the following factors: strategies from the 2019-2022 strategic plan that required continued attention, employing language which references individuals versus offenders to avoid dehumanization of people who are in the criminal justice system, ensuring the provision of culturally competent programs and services, enhancing the public's understanding of the work of the CCP and making sure the public knows what it is that's being done and on their behalf, and a number of other factors. So staff recommendation is to refer the attached strategic plan to the Board of Supervisors for approval at the January 10th, 2023 meeting, at which time there will also be a closeout presentation of the current strategic plan as well. Next steps, presuming approval from the Board of Supervisors, the CCP analysts, me, will coordinate development of tactical plans for each of the strategies in collaboration with the appropriate CCP department staff. Tactical plans will include the steps necessary to implement the identified strategies and achieve the desired outcomes. And then I will also be reviewing other like-size and like-minded counties and their strategic plans to identify opportunities that we could implement here in Yolo County. These might be rolled into the tactical plans or be added as additional outcomes, or if maybe more sizable, they get put aside for the 2026-2028 strategic plan. So this is our proposal and what our next steps will be, presuming approval today and approval from the Board of Supervisors in January. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean. Much appreciated. Any CCP comment on John's presentation or the strategic plan in general? Not seeing any. Madam Clerk, any public comment on the CCP strategic plan?
No hands raised, Chair.
All right, I believe this does need a formal vote to refer to the Board of Supervisors. So can I get a motion?
Well, I'd make a motion only with adding in there's one outcome that doesn't have the CCP analyst as like a responsible party on there, and I don't know if that was intentional or if we want to have conversation around it, but all the others except for the first one on page 2 have CCP analyst involved. That one just lists sheriff and HHSA only. So I'd make a motion if the group supports it to add CCP analyst in there with sheriff and HHSA, like the other ones, and then vote to move it forward for approval.
Any CCP input on that or comments?
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion to add the CCP analyst to item number 1 and a from member Evans and a second from member Olson. So let's vote on that modification first. Madam Clerk, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Member Davis,
Aye.
Member Evans,
Aye.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Raven.
Aye.
Member Vega,
Yes.
Member Onero.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. So with that modification in place, any other CCP comment or regarding the CCP strategic plan? I don't see any. We'll ask for any public comments one last time before we ask for a motion. Any hands raised, Madam Clerk?
No hands raised, Chair.
And just,
All right, thank you.
and Chair, I'm sorry, this is the clerk. Also on that last vote, it was for only CCP executive members only, is my understanding. Is that correct? Can you clarify if that was for that, or are we supposed to call all the names?
Yeah, that's my mistake. I realized when you were just about done that it should have been executive committee only. I think since it was just amending the content prior to a final action on the plan, we don't need to redo anything. I would just let it stand as an action of the full CCP. It's important, though, that the final action on the plan, which is a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors, is an action of the executive committee only.
Okay, so I'm not sure I understand. Do we need to include the other members on that vote too, or no?
No, just the
Okay.
executive committee
Okay, we did
for
that then.
the
Okay.
final of the plan.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and this is all per state law. It's not me just making things up.
Thank you, County Council, keeping us in line. Thank you, Madam Clerk, for clarifying. So we have that modification, and so we would just need a motion for the executive committee only to vote on referring the CCP strategic plan to the Board of Supervisors. Can I get a motion?
I can make the motion to refer the strategic plan to the Board of Supervisors.
I'll
Okay.
second.
All right, we have a first from Member Olson and a second from Member Vega. Madam Clerk, can we get a roll call vote, please?
Is it all members, Chair?
No, just the executive committee.
Okay. Member Davis,
Aye.
Member Evans,
Aye.
Member Miller,
Aye.
Member Olson.
Aye.
Member Raven,
Aye.
Member Vega.
Yes.
Member Onero.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right. This brings us to item number 14, which is an update that I'll be providing on behalf of Chief Fruitnik, and it's on the Day Reporting Center request for proposal. So the opportunity to submit proposals for the Day Reporting Center services closed on November 4th. We have received 3 proposals, and there is a team now scoring those proposals with the goal to complete that process and notify the selected contractor by November 30th. Much of the process is confidential at this time, and should you have any questions, please contact the RP coordinator, Diane Luna. Any CCP comments? All right, not seeing any hands. Madam Clerk, is there any public comments on the DRC proposal for RFP?
No hands raised, Chair.
All right, thank you. Then item number 15 is an update on mental health diversion, and I will turn it over to Member Raven for an update at this time.
Thank you, Chair. So it's been a few months since we've updated you on the mental health diversion plan, which you all agreed to fund. It seems to be going extremely well. We're almost at the 1-year point, so I thought it would be a good time to give you a 15-minute update, let you know how we're doing. We haven't had any graduations yet, but we're getting very, very close. What I've found most impressive is the seamless way that this group of individuals from probation, CommuniCare, the court, public defender, and the DA have worked together to help an underserved population that weren't being helped by our mental health court and our addiction intervention court. So I think we have Tegwin here from CommuniCare, and we have a very brief PowerPoint that we wanted to share with you. Is Tegwin here?
We may need to promote Tegwin to a panelist, Madam Clerk.
Or it could be Julie Santiago. There's Tegwin.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Great. Also joining me is Julie Santiago. I don't know if it's possible to admit her too, but I can get us started. Thank you for having me, and we're really excited to talk about some of our progress here. Can you please advance the slide? So again, my name is Tegwin Millard, and I am Associate Clinical Director of Behavioral Health at CommuniCare Health Centers. And the Mental Health Diversion Program is one of the programs that I work closely with. And the goal and purpose of the Mental Health Diversion Program was to, as Jonathan said, provide behavioral health care to those with a mental health and or substance use disorder, including substance use disorder treatment to a population that has been underserved, and we had kind of a gap in diversionary programs. We provide wraparound services and linkage to resources both inside and outside of Yolo County, in addition to the monitoring and accountability components that we are looking for to ensure public safety. Please advance the slide. So here's a little bit of data. And we've had 97 people who've been referred to the mental health diversion program. We've assessed 80 of those 97 individuals, and the rest of the information kind of breaks out like what's happened to those individuals. So right now we actually have 27 who are actively enrolled, and our cap is 30. We have 6 assessments pending. So we imagine that several of those folks will probably be accepted into the program. So we have some open spots left. We are projecting that if everything goes as we hope, that we'll have maybe 3 graduations in early 2023. And so I think we've been able to refine some of the referral process, and some of those things are still happening now. And it took us a little bit to figure out exactly who, like the population of clients that we were going to serve would be. And I think that you know, we've done a good job identifying that now. Slide, please. One of the things that we wanted to highlight today was the role of our peer advocate. And I think some of you probably have been involved with programs, or I know there's folks here from HHSA who actually have peer advocates on their team. And really a peer advocate is somebody with lived experience and identifies as part of the population that we're actually serving. So somebody who has experienced a mental health condition or illness, a substance use disorder, somebody who has navigated criminal justice and service systems before, and has demonstrated stability and kind of come out on the other side, and is really serves as kind of a point of hope and role modeling for people who are in the program. And our peer advocate is named Melissa. And these are some of the things that she is doing with clients that we're serving. And research bears this out, that's, you know, some of the things that they're finding is the most beneficial regarding peer advocacy. Slide, please. And so here's, you know, some highlights of the program. And again, I'm going to mention the role of peer advocates, and these are actual client quotes. Has inspired my sobriety, always present when I call, motivated me to be a better person. Our peer advocate has also attended psychotherapy groups and substance use disorder treatment groups with clients in order to help them engage in those groups, address, you know, maybe some behavioral concerns or anxieties, or help people to be more successful in group treatment. And additionally, she's provided some really vital linkages to 12-step supports and attends meetings with people, encourages people to attend, transports to meetings and things like that. It's been really, really wonderful having her as a part of the team. Slide, please. So some of our challenges and solution finding efforts that we're currently engaging in right now is our reliance on probation for transports. Our program doesn't have a car or a vehicle that's dedicated to this program and to these clients. So staffing of transports can be challenging. And we are making some changes, or, you know, exploring ways that we can reduce how intense that can sometimes be. Our referral process refinement, you know, when we had first launched, we kind of had wide open doors, and it took us a while to figure out who exactly was the population that this program was a best fit for. And, you know, based on some of the limitations that we have, and us, like others, housing is always a challenge for us. And the mental health diversion program doesn't have an intuitive or natural housing link like some other programs do, some other diversion programs do. So we don't have the housing supports, and that can be a bit of a challenge. So we're trying to kind of navigate that, just like everybody else, you know, in Yolo County who is in need of housing and is serving people who are at risk or actually homeless. So advance a slide, please. So this is the team. You'll see representatives there from the DA's office, the public defender's office, probation. There's Judge Guard, and Julie and I are on there too. Lieutenant Gaines from Monroe. And, you know, like Jonathan said, we've been able to work really effectively together and problem solve some difficult things, and are really looking forward to what's going to happen in the next year. Slide, please. That's it. These are just some references and citations on peer advocacy. Thanks. That's
All right, thanks, Tegwin. I'll turn it back over to Jonathan for any closeout.
Thank you, Tegwin. The only thing I wanted to add is just something about the peer advocate position. And as many of you here know, recent legislation that was passed by our legislature and signed by the governor has created a certification for peer advocates. And I know, having gone to some meetings, local mental health board, statewide meetings, there's a push statewide to really professionalize these individuals because they play such a significant role in helping others, and paying them a living wage and benefits and things like that. So it's really exciting. So I know that HHSA has signed up for this certification, and there's some courses that individuals that are peer advocates in the county have to take, and then I guess they take an exam. So I appreciate the fact that Health and Human Services has taken a lead on that. So so I don't know if there are any other comments. If Julie has any comments, if she's here, or if anyone has any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
I'm not sure if Julie was promoted to panelist. Madam Clerk, were you able to promote Julie also?
We did, Chair.
Thank you. Any CCP comment for either Tegwin or Julie or Jonathan?
I just appreciate getting the update. I think this is good when we have new programs like this. Oh, sorry, I wasn't polite and raised my hand like Tracy. Sorry.
I was trying to clap. I messed up.
Oh, okay. I think when we have new programs like this or innovation programs or something, in particular, it's helpful to get updates like this and see progress. This is something that CCP, like you said, Jonathan, just started funding about a year ago. So it's good to hear kind of the impact that it's having. I know it fills a gap, like you said, in between like what our mental health court can serve, what our kind of Department of State hospital diversion program serves. And, we're continuing, I think, to refine and find those existing gaps that still exist in the system, even with our kind of core programs. So I know you may not have this answer, Jonathan or Tegwin or Julie, but as we look at the program is currently constructed and look forward to the next, 3-year plan, one of the things is evaluating programs like our collaborative courts, like this program, and seeing where gaps and needs may still exist, or, ideally, one of the recommendations may be expansion for certain programs and that sort of thing. So are there like key takeaways you're seeing, or are there areas where like if you said, oh, if we had $50,000 more for this program, we could do X, Y, and Z, and this is a current gap we see, or anything like that that you have off the top of your head you want to share with CCP today?
Thanks, Jonathan. I don't know if you have anything that you wanted to mention, but I do want to say that the lack of a dedicated vehicle is a challenge for us. And so having one person from probation that we're kind of relying on is not probably the best use of her time. And it's not necessarily the most trauma-informed response that we'd want when working with and engaging some of these folks. And like we've done really well, despite some of those challenges. And so I think that having the vehicle would, I think, would probably help somewhat. And that's kind of like the biggest thing that's coming up for me right now.
So I have another one that Tegwin mentioned in the PowerPoint, which you saw, and that is housing.
Oh.
And so, we have some fairly significant housing in our mental health court and in our addiction intervention court. It works really, really well. But there are some individuals that, as we mentioned, are not suitable or eligible for those programs, but they do need housing. Many of them don't in the mental health diversion program, but some of them do. And we have a challenge in figuring out how to help those individuals. That's one thing that I wanted to mention. And the other thing I forgot, there was one other thing. I wanted to mention that as a result of the support of HHSA in finding some Mental Health Services Act funding, we were able to hire a couple of navigators. Egwin mentioned the issue of figuring out where people should be going, what programs. And so we decided if we could have, like a central point of contact for the referrals to come in, and some individuals with expertise in the field and understanding all the programs and who they best serve, we could at least have a launching pad to figure out initially which program an individual should be looked at. And that staff with HHSA has been hired and onboarded. We're actually doing a 2 to 3 hour training tomorrow. If any of you want to learn about all the different collaborative courts and are available from 1 to 3:30, contact me, and you're welcome to join us and learn a little bit about all the programs. So that's about all I have to add. Does anyone have any questions?
I'm not seeing any member hands raised. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments or hands raised?
No hands raised, Chair.
All right. Well, thank you, Jonathan and Tegwin and Julie, for your presentation and the update. So unless there are any objections, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and our next CCP meeting will be on January 9th at 1:30.
Well, quick question. I know we voted on sending the CCP plan to the board. Do we know what board meeting that is planning to go to? Sorry if I missed it in the information packet.
No, that's a good question. I'll defer.
January 10th.
Thank you, Jill. I believe that was.
It
January
was.
10th. All right, so that's January 10th. It's timing is a little off because our next meeting is CCP is January 9th, so we won't really have an update on that until our following quarter meeting.
I think Carlene has her hand up.
Thank
Oh.
you. I feel a little odd being the one to raise this since I feel like I'm one of the newest members to CCP, but since we won't meet again until January, I just, if it's okay, wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Ian. He's going to be leaving his position at HHSA by the end of the year, moving on to bigger, I'm not going to say better, but bigger things maybe at the Housing Authority. And I know that he has been not just an active attendee at CCP, but a really active member of this body and has contributed so much. I think we joked in the last meeting that a majority of the edits in the strategic plan came from Ian. I'm just, my observations in the short time I've been here is just that he's added so much value. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge Ian and thank him for his contributions here at CCP.
Thank you, Member Jakowski. All right, if there are no further objections, I'm going to go ahead and adjourn this meeting, and we will be back January 9th. Everyone have happy holidays.
Thank you.
Ian, you're still welcome to join us in the future.
Maybe I'll be one of those attendees you see over there. Yeah. Carlene's trying to get me to cry on a Monday afternoon. I see.
Sorry, that wasn't I mean, welcome to the club.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.